All right, so today we are looking at input and output streams. Input and output stream. Okay, so our last meeting, we talked about exception handling. The video is available for you all to, I believe you watched them and you practiced some of the things. Like I said, the concept of exceptions, you'll be seeing them more and more going forward, even in what we are coming to or what we learned today. You see the concept of exception handling as well. If so, please, if you have not watched the video, if you didn't join the class the other time, if you've forgotten what we did, kindly watch the videos and get acquainted with all that we've done so far. Okay, so input and output stream in Java programming. Okay, so basically, if we say a stream basically is looking at the sequence of data, okay, or the flow, continuous flow of data within your program. Now, input and output or IO stream, okay, basically has to do with um, the movement of data, okay, how data is accepted into your program and how it is outputted. Okay, the means or the streams by which you can accept data into your program and how you can output it. Okay, and there are so many streams, okay, by which data um, is read into your program or is accepted into your program and is printed or outputted. Now it says here that a stream is linked to a physical layer by the Java input and output system to make input and output operations. Okay. Now, this or Java encapsulates stream under the java.io package. Java.io package. Okay, so this is means by which your you can use or you can make use of your the various classes, okay, under which you have your Java, your input and output streams. Okay. Now, an input stream basically is looking at how data is accepted into your program, okay, or how you make the input into your program. So if you know from previous lessons, we've talked about the use of the scanner, okay, with the system.in to accept input into our programs. Okay, we use the scanner with the system.in to accept input into our program. And then when it comes to the output, we use the system.out. Okay, system.in, system.out. And if you remember from our last lesson, let me just see if I can load that on exception handling. Okay, we saw the use of those streams. So if you can see them, I hope you can all see my screen.
Yes, sir, we can see, sir.
Okay. So if you remember from exception video we did, basically we have the use of the system.in anytime we use the scanner, okay, for input, and then we use the system.out for output. Okay. Primarily when it comes to or this system.in and system.out are input and output stream associated with the console. If we say the console, we are talking about when you run this program, you realize that the output shows down here, okay, within the console. So these two streams. That's the input and output stream. That's the system.in and the system.out. This particular type of streams work within the console. Okay, they are the three streams that are created automatically within the console, okay, or they are attached with the console. So the system.out is the standard output stream. So with that one, it will print or it will give us the output on the console. Then the system.in is where within the console, it will accept input. So for instance, it says they enter the integers. So the system.in will help us accept integers. Then the system.out will display the details we have here. Okay. Then there's a third one, which is the system.air. So the system.air, the air there is error. Okay, output, sorry, the standard error stream. Okay, so with the console, those are the three standard streams that we have when you are working or writing code to be based on input and output stream within the console. Okay. All right. So there are two types of streams. Okay. We can categorize them into two. We have what we call the byte stream, and then we have character stream. Byte stream, and then character stream. Now, what is the byte stream? The byte stream simply handles input and output of bytes. Okay, bytes. You know bytes as a data type. If you go back to your Java 1 handout, you see the various data types that we talked about, the short bytes, long, and so on. Okay, so it handles input and output of byte stream. Okay, sorry, of byte. So example of which we have the buffered input stream, buffered output stream. There's the input stream, output stream, data input stream, data output stream, file input stream. There's also the file output stream, okay, and so on. Okay, so these are all considered to be the byte stream. Okay. Then the second category is what we call the character stream. Okay, now we know what characters are. Characters are the various text, okay, or alphabet symbols and digits that we have. Okay, and a combination of characters give you a string. So the character stream is convenient for handling input and output of characters. Okay, so the character stream uses Unicode. Now the Unicode is a standardized code for handling the code that are used to handle machine readable languages. Okay, that or codes that the machine can understand. There's the ASCII, there's Unicode, and a few others. Okay, these are standard that is internationally recognized. Okay, now some of these, for the character stream, we have the reader, we have the writer, we have the print reader, print writer, and so on, okay, which we are going to look at with some examples. Okay, so basically, what today's course or today's topic is about is just to help you appreciate some of this input and output stream. Okay, so far what we've been working on is the use of the scanner, and then that's the system.in and then the system.out to perform our input and output. Okay, now we are going a step further to look at how we can do that with files. Okay, with files. So today our main example will be based on file input stream and then file output stream. And we are going to combine it with other streams or other character stream. All right, so let's switch to our IntelliJ and then create a project. So I'll create a project. And then we name the project, let's say, file IO stream. So that's our project name, file IO stream. Now, within the SRC file, we are going to create our package as we always do. Create our package, so com.file IO stream. And then we create our class. So name the class file IO stream. So within our class, we introduce our public static void main. Okay, and now we are ready to write our code. Okay. Now, what is this? What are these input and output streams? Okay, especially when we have to talk about the when we listed some of them. Okay, so let me just go back to the file. Okay, so we have the buffered input and output stream. So the buffered input and output stream are used to, or these are classes. Okay, let me put it that way. So first and foremost, they are a class, the class. Okay, so if it's a class, that means you have to create an object of that class, okay, in order to use it. Okay, so for instance, when it comes to the use of the basic input stream and output stream, the standard one, okay, they are abstract classes that form the foundation of the byte input and output operations. Okay, so with that one, we have the scanner as a class within that input, the standard input and output stream. So with the scanner, you can use it to read input from your keyboard, okay, into your program, onto the console. And at the same time, with the use of the system.out, you can output whatever information you have. Okay, so that's for the input stream. Now the buffered stream, okay, which is also another example, okay, of the byte stream, okay, also helps to perform what we call the buffering, okay, or help to perform buffering capabilities. Now, what this does is within the package, it can help you to output or it is used with other output streams, okay, to read data into your program, okay, or it can be used with other output streams to write data, okay, from your program, okay. So you're going to see how we can use them, the buffered inputs and the buffered outputs. We'll use them together with the file stream, okay, to perform some functionalities. Then we have the file input stream and then the file output stream. So the file input stream and the file output stream also allow us to read from a file and then to write to a file. Okay, and that will be our focus with the code we write, how we can read from a file and then write to a file. Then when it comes to the character stream, we have the file writer, file reader, which we are going to use as well. And that also enables us to read from a file and write to a file. But this time, with the file reader and file writer, it is based on character oriented. The file input stream and output stream based on byte-oriented operation, okay? So we are going to look at some of this in the code. Okay? So the first thing we want to do in this particular code is to write a program which is going to create a file. Okay, now if we say create a file, by default, this time we are not going to have our input from the accept input from the keyboard. Okay, so the file, for instance, if I have a Word document, a text document, or any document anywhere, okay, how can I accept input from that document? Maybe the document is on my desktop, it's in my project folder. Okay, how can you create that document and then maybe write to that document or read from that document? Now, anytime you hear the word read, read is synonymous to the word input. Okay, so anytime you hear the word read, a program that reads from a file, it has to, it's associated with the word input. Okay, and then when you hear the word write, write is associated with the word output or print. Okay, so the first example we are going to look at, we want to create a file, but we write a program to create that file. And then when we create that file, we write some text to be outputted or to write to that particular file we created. Okay. So what we are going to do is that we'll specify where the file is going to be created, and then you write out some text and use our file writer and then other streams to write to the file that we create. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is to create a file and write to that file. Now it can be a text file, it could be a PDF, it can be file of any format. Okay, so now we are going to introduce a class known as the file writer class. So the file writer class, we are going to introduce that class. So we say file writer. So we want to create a file. So file writer class, then we create an object and we say that object is create file. Create file equals new file writer. Okay. So over here, we are going to specify the name of the file we are creating. So maybe I can say Java 2 part-time or evening file. Java 2 evening. And then we add the file extension. So maybe .txt, okay, to show the file extension. So we use the file writer class, create an object of that file writer class, which is create file. Then we specify the file name. Now, what is going to happen is that this file, because we've not specified or given it a particular directory, for instance, if the file is on desktop, okay, or we want the file to be created on desktop or in document or in any of the drives available, we have to specify that directory. But when you do it this way, automatically this file is created inside your project folder. Okay, this file will be created inside your project folder. Now, the next thing we want to do here is to introduce another class. Okay, now we realize that when we introduce the file writer class, you can see that it's been imported. It's imported the java.io package. And within it, we have the file writer. Okay, so all the classes with the IO stream are found within the IO, java.io package. Okay. Now, the next thing we want to do is to introduce what we call the print writer. So the print writer is also another class. Okay. So while the file writer is helping us to create a file, just a moment. All right, can we continue?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay. So we are looking at the print writer. Okay, so the print writer is also a class within the java.io package. Okay, so this class helps you to now write whatever information you have, okay, to be written or outputted or printed in the document. Okay, so we've created a document. Now, whatever information we want to put on this document we've created, we need the print writer to help us push whatever message we have onto the document. Are you following? So we
Yes,
create,
sir. Yes,
we
sir.
create a class, we create an object of the print writer class. So that one is an object, so you can take any name. So I'll just say write file, or maybe I can say write text. So whatever text we have, we want it to be written into that file. So write text equals new print writer. So in here, we are going to put the file that we created, which is the create file. Okay, we are going to put this in here. Okay, that is to say that, okay, the first one, we are saying create a file, file writer, which has created this file. Okay, then now we use the print writer with the write text to write or to now print whatever text we have into the file we created inside the create file object. So this is the file we created, it's in the create file object. Then we now push whatever text we want to push into the create file object. Okay, so now this is where we perform what you know as the system.out.println. Okay, so previously, if you had wanted to print out something or write something on your console, we would have said system.out.println, and then we will put our message there, maybe welcome to Java 2 evening class. Okay, so we would have done this, and once we do this, the message will be what? Printed on the console for us to see. Okay, but in this case, we are printing or we are writing to a file. We want to write whatever we have here. This message here should be written to this text file. We don't want to see it output on the console, but I want it to be located in this text file. Okay, so instead of the system.out, which is for the console, we take it out and then we bring the print writer objects, which is the write text. Okay, we use the write text here. So write text dot print line. Okay, so this time it will take this message we have here, okay, through the write text, push it to the file, the create file object, and then the create file object was what created this Java 2 evening.txt file. Okay, so do you see the flow of the data? Are we all here? Do we follow the flow?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So let's say we have let's say we have about 4 lines of text we want to add to it. Okay, so maybe we want to take a list of people in the class. So let's say we have about 3 people in the class. Okay. So just as we want to repeat the text one by one, I'll just copy and paste and then change the text within the class. Okay, so I'll just put in some people's name here. So I think we have Emmanuel Kwanzaa. So let me just type some names. Emmanuel Kwanzaa. I have another person who is the Grant Ampa. Then there's Philip Obo. So we are just entering this as text. And then who was Godfred? Wilfred Eduma. So you can see here, so instead of using the system.out.println, we are using what? This, the file writer, which is the object here for all of that, okay? Now, when you finish, the last thing you have to do anytime you are writing to a file or reading to a file is to close it. Once you finish writing your text, your string, okay, or whatever character, whatever it is, once you write to the file, you end by closing it. So write text.close. Okay. All right. So sorry, this is not supposed to be. It's just supposed to be create file. Yeah. It's not in a quote. It's just create file. So we are putting the create file here. All right. So now we are done with our code. Okay, but there's something happening. Okay. What if we run this code? Okay, and the file that we are trying to create so that we can output this statement into the file. What if the file doesn't exist? After we run the code at runtime, we don't see the file. What do you think would happen? And how can we resolve that? I hope you get my question.
Yes, sir.
So we've written this code. We're assuming that this is the end of the code. And when we run it, and this file, which we are trying to create, we are not able to locate it, or it's not able to create the file after we run the code. What do you think will happen? And how can we resolve that? Anyone? Let me see if you are following what we've been doing this semester. Emmanuel Kwanzaa, do you have an answer?
Yeah. Please, the question again.
Oh, okay. Let's listen to Pokusa for the.
Yes, sir, please. I think you have a runtime error.
Okay. So how do you handle it? Yes, Pokusa for the. How do you handle it?
Runtime error.
And so how
So
would
please, let me leave that. Let me leave that one for someone so that we share the point.
you can't leave it for someone. At this point, you can't leave it for someone. I want you to take all the points.
Actually, I've forgotten how you solve it. So, if I'm being honest, yeah.
Don't say you want to leave it for someone. So, Charles, your hand is up.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
So since there will be an error, we can try the try-catch statement to check for that error.
Exactly. So that was based on what we learned in our last meeting. So if you are not able to locate the file or even create the file, then it can't even write this statement we have here and names we have here into the file in the first place. Okay. So we need to write a code to handle that particular runtime error, that exception. Okay. And if you come here, you can see that the file writer is even underlined in red. When I put the cursor on it, it said unhandled exception, java.io.io exception. So the name of the exception happening here is IO exception. Okay, if you remember from class we had, we talked about the various classes, okay, within the various classes of exceptions. Okay, we talked about the input out of bound, arithmetic exception, mentioned IO exception, file not found exception, and a couple of them. Okay, and like I said, going forward, you'll be seeing more of this in every program we write. So if you didn't forgotten all that we've learned in the previous class, the video was made available last week. Go back and watch it and appreciate how to use it. Because every code you write this semester, there would have to be an exception you are handling in it. Okay. All right. So how do we do that? So like Charles said, we introduce the try and catch. So before the code, we just put the try. Okay. And then catch. So the try block and the catch block. And we put this code that we've written, cut it, and then I put it inside the try block. Okay. If you don't know what the try block is, or the catch block, go back and watch the video from our last session to understand what we are doing. So once we've done this, the next thing is to enter the parameter for the catch. Now the parameter is always based on the exception that is being handled. And in our context, it's telling us that we are supposed to handle an IO exception. And like I said from the previous lecture, if you don't know the type of exception class to write, you can always write the generic one, which is exception. Okay, generically, if you put exception there, it will handle any type of exception. Okay, but if you know the specific type of exception to handle, you can always put it there. So in this case, I'll put here IO exception, because it's giving me the type of exception to handle. So you realize that immediately I put it here, the red line under the file writer is gone. Okay. Then I come in here to put in my message. So this time I want the message to be printed on the console. Okay, the message to be printed on the console to give me a response. So maybe I want to say error. And then this error should be the type of exception that I want to be printed. Okay. So that brings us to the end of the code. Are we following? Okay, so it's this straightforward. The print writer, the file writer, giving the name of your file, the context or the content of whatever you want to be displayed in that file here. If there's an error with the file, it should give you an input-output exception. Okay. And I can see that even the IO exception in this context is within the java.io package. Okay, it's within the java.io package. Please take note of some of these things, because I'll be bringing them up in the quizzes. The full-time class, there were some couple of questions I asked. People responded, but I didn't give out the final answer. Okay, because until you tried them, okay, you would not know the final answer. So everyone can respond to it, but until you try it, you would not know the final answer. Okay, and that's when we get there, I'll make those questions available to you as well. All right. So that's the end of our code. We are creating a file and then writing this text we have here and the names onto the file. Okay, so I'll run this. All right, so our code ran successfully. There was no error. But because we didn't use the system.out, okay, you can see that we don't have any text written here. So let's go to the file we created. So this is the project folder, IO stream, a file IO stream, which I created. Okay, and then within it, you can see the file. You can see the file. That's what Java 2 evening. Java 2 evening. Okay, so when we open it, now we can see the text in there. Okay, so the text that we gave, welcome to Java 2 evening class. Then the names are given out, Emmanuel, Grant, Philip, Godfrey. Are we all here?
Yeah.
Any question? Any question? So if you want to do file input and output, you want to write to a file, this is how you go about it. Okay. Now let's look at reading from a file. You want to read from a file. Okay, so I've told you how to identify these synonyms. The read is for input, the write is for output. So read the content of an existing file. Okay, example of that file, maybe you can say Java. The file name should be, say, Java 2. Java 2.txt. Java 2.txt. Read from the file. Okay. So what we want to say is that we are assuming this file already exists. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this file and populate it with some data, some information. Okay, so still in the project folder, right click, or let me just go here, create a new file. Let me do a text file and then name it Java space 2.txt. Okay, I hope you can see the two files. The one with the evening is the file we wrote to, which is this. Okay, and then the Java 2 is an empty file. Okay, there's no text in it. There's no text in there. So this is the evening and then the 2. Okay, so I'm going to add some more names. So let's say Sebastian. Sebastian Isuma. We have Henry Sampa. And then who else? James Ashiagbo. Okay. So we have these three names here. We want to read these three names into our program. Okay. We want to read these three names, okay, from this file into maybe or onto the console. Are you following? Do you get the scenario? Do we get the scenario before I continue?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, we do.
Yes, sir.
So I save this file. I'll comment the file writer part, the first example. Let me comment it out so that we do. Okay. All right, so now we want to read the file. Now, in order to read the file, the first one we were writing, so we use the file writer. Okay, so this one we are using file reader. File reader. Then we give the name of the file. So let's say read file equals new file reader. Then we over here we specify the name of the file. So the name of the file we have is java2.txt. So I'll copy and then paste here. Okay. Now, this time around, instead of using the print reader, we'll use what we call the buffered reader. Okay. So the buffered reader is going to help us to read the it's going to act as an input stream. Okay, so read the data that we have more efficiently. Okay, so the buffered reader is what is going to help us read the data that we have into a program. Okay, so what it will do is that it will read a single character from the output stream. Sorry, a single character from the input stream. So from the file, it will read a character, okay, and then or it will read a character from the file that we created. So that's the names that we created in the text file is going to help us read them. So we give it an object, we say, let's say read text equals new buffered reader. Okay, so what do you think we'll put in the brackets? Anyone? Look at the previous example and tell me what we'll put in the bracket. Yes, focus on here.
Read file.
We put in the read file, which is this one, the object here. Okay, we'll put it here, read file, just like we did over here, where we did the create file. We put the create file in here. Okay. Then this is where the technicalities come in, okay, from what you've learned in previous class or previous meeting in Java 1. Okay. Now, we are dealing with what? Characters. We are dealing with characters. Sorry, this is so Java 2. So the names we wrote, they are all characters, SEBASTETIEN, and so on. Even the space is considered as a character. Okay. So because these are characters and we know combination of characters will give us what? When we combine characters, what do we get? Oh, let's flow. When we combine characters, what do we get? We get a string. Perfect. Okay. Now we have the string of names. Okay. And they are in line. So line 1, line 2, line 3. If we have more, line 4, and so on. Okay. So we are going to declare a variable line. We declare it as a string. Okay, to pick the characters. And then we'll use our while loop to pick or to read the characters or the strings line by line. Okay, so we have like 3 lines there. So we want to read them line by line. So in our while loop, we are going to say that while the line, okay, so that's the line of names that we have. While the line is equal to read, okay, read text, because that's where the buffered reader is going to pick the text, okay, line by line. So read text dot read line. Okay, remember when we use the system input and out, when we use the system in with the scanner, when we are reading an integer value, we do what? Read int. When we are reading a double value, we use read double. Okay, so with this one, we are reading a string. So we pick first the object of that buffered input, which is the read text. Then we do dot read line. Are we following? Are we following?
Yes, sir.
Dot read
Yes, sir.
line. Okay. So if this dot read line is not equal to now, it's not equal to now, then it should execute the code within the while block. So what code are we putting here? We are saying that while the character or the string we want to read, okay, so the line of string we want to read, if it's not equal to now, if it's not equal to now, it's saying that if there's no space, okay, after it, then it's now. If there are spaces here, for instance, the file is empty, there's nothing here, then we will say that it's what? It's now. Okay. So if we have strings in here, characters in here, that means that it is not now. So it's supposed to read them line by line. So if the first line is not now, then it will read it. If the second line, it checks, is it not equal to now? It's not now, so it continues. Then checks the third line. Okay, third line is also not now. Then the loop will continue. Then it comes to the next line. The next line, in fact, you can't even see line 4 there because there is nothing after James Ashiago. So it's considered to be now, okay? So at that point, the loop will end. So that's how the condition here works within the while loop, okay? However, if that text or that string or that name is available, it has to read it. And when it reads it, we want to output it on our console. Okay, so how do we output it? System.out.println, and then we'll say line. Okay, it should read that line. Okay, line, that's the string we are picking. It should just read that line of text in here and then output it on the screen. Okay, so just like the file writer, okay, with this one too, when you finish, you output, you use your read text dot out, dot close to close, okay, your file reader to close it. Read text dot close. So just like we did with this one, we have to put it also in what? a try and catch block because there are exceptions showing here, which we need to handle them. If you look at this one, it says what? File not found exception, file reader. So that's to say that I want to read from this file. What if the file is not available? Okay, it should give me what? File not found exception. So I have to include that exception in the code. Here is an IO exception. This is also an IO exception. Okay, so I'll introduce the try catch. Try catch. Okay, copy all that I have here. Cut and then paste in here. Okay. Then I introduce exception. So this time, let me use the generic one, which is exception. Yes. So you can see that once I introduce exception, it's handling all those runtime error that we saw earlier. Okay. And then I'll put a statement here and say within the catch, and then just put the file not found. Sorry. File not found. Okay. So that's the end of the code. Now, the main thing has to do with how you read the file. Okay, and where you output it to. In fact, I can read this file instead of outputting it onto the console. I can use this file writer, okay, to output whatever line I read back into this text, which is the Java 2 evening text. Okay, that option, you can also do it that way. Okay. All right, so any question before we run the code? Any question? Any question?
Sir, please, can you go over again?
So the video will be made available, so going over will take time.
Okay.
Unless you have a particular question on something, but going over the whole thing will take time. Once we agree with the fact that we are trying to read the contents of a file onto the console, once you appreciate that, then you are good to go. Yes, Angela. Angela has a question, then Charles.
Sir, please, what if you don't add the now, the done now, yes. What if you don't add that one? Oh, will it read all the empty spaces?
Yes, so we put that there to avoid an infinite loop. We know that every loop has to end after a period of time. Like it should have it should be finite. It should end after some count. So if we don't put it there, we are saying that it should continue reading. And you know that if it's reading, whether there is a text there or not, blank space are also considered as characters. Okay, so if you don't put now there, it will not end the condition.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Charles.
Yes, sir. I wanted to ask, does it only work for text files?
No, it works for any document. It's file reader. So any yes, so let me put it that way. So this has to do with mainly files in general. Okay, files in general. So text file, PDF. When it comes to other files, for instance, maybe other save, let's say, how do I put it? Other files like maybe audio files, okay, and so on. It works for them, but you have to add other code to it, okay, as to how you want to read it and convert it. Okay, so those ones are not straightforward like the text file. With a text file, you are picking out the text within them. Okay, you are picking out, that's why I gave you two main streams, the byte stream and then the character stream. So the file reader is taking the characters within the file. Okay, where the byte stream has to do with bytes, so preferably numbers and digits. Okay, but the character
Okay, sir.
with the use of the file reader takes mainly text related documents. Let me put it that way. So it can be Excel, it can be PDF, it can be whichever, maybe a Word document and so on. All right. So let's run the code and see our output. But first and foremost, this is the file we are trying to read from. Okay. So when we run our code, we are supposed to see the names now showing on our console. Okay, so you can see the names. So Sebastian, Henry, and then James. In that order. Okay. Similarly, like I said, you can add up those names to this file, the names that already exist here. Okay, so that one I'll leave it out for you to try. All that you need to do is to introduce this. This time the file exists, so you don't need to introduce you don't need to more like create the file. Okay, so the file exists, you maintain the same name as we have here, and then print writer. Okay, so when you get to this part of your code, instead of doing system.out.println, you rather come and do the write text.println, and then you put in the line. So instead of the name here, you put in the line. Okay, so it's now going to pick whatever name you have here in this particular file, pick that name, and then now write it into the Java 2 evening file class. Okay, so experiment that on your own, explore it. The other thing I want to talk about here briefly, there are two other things I'll talk about before we end the class. Who is this? What's the name? Is it Rag or what? Is that your full name? Is that your name on the iCampus? Your hand is up. What's your name? What's your full name? All right, let's continue. So, like I was saying, there are two other things I want us to look at concerning this code. Then we can call it a day. So the first has to do with the file name. Okay, the file name. Okay, and see how this will give us file not found. Now I can see that when we wrote the name, even the file itself, there's a space between the two, Java and then 2. Okay, So if I take this space off and I run the code again, it's telling me what? File not found. Because the character or the file name is not the same as what we have here. Okay. So it will give us the file not found. So anytime you are putting in the name, either if you are creating it as a new file, as for that one, it doesn't matter. But if you are reading from it, okay, mostly you make sure that the file exists and then the name you are putting in there is the same name as the file you want to read from. Now, the other thing has to do with if your file is not in the folder, it's not in the project folder. Okay, so let's say this Java 2 file we want to read from is on desktop. Let me put it on desktop. It's here on my desktop. Okay, so in that case, if I run the code, the name is there all right, but the file, because it's not in my project folder, I would not see it in here, file not found. Okay, so what do? I need to go back and get the path of this. Okay, this is my file. I open it. I have it here. Get the path for this and then put that path inside the file name. So right click. Depending on the operating system you are using, some you have to go to properties, some you have to click at the top here to get the path. Okay, so with this one, I just go to copy path, Control-Shift-C. I have it copied. And then I clear everything from here and paste. Let me make sure I have the right thing. Yeah. So, all right. But let me clear everything within the brackets and then paste. Double. Legal character. Okay. So we have it here. So this is showing the directory. So first, your document, which is on your desktop, is not only on your desktop. First, it's within Drive C. Then the users folder in Drive C. Then the PC name within the users folder. Then desktop before you can now locate the file. Okay. So when you do this, and then you run your code, instead of going I didn't get the file. Let me just check. I think I've made a mistake somewhere. Let me take this off. Double quote. Double quote here. Okay. Forward slashes were becoming too many. So your double quotes within it, Drive C, then double backslash uses the name desktop, okay, in that order. And then when we run the code, it now reads the file and then gives us the output. Okay, so take note of the file name when it has to do with when your file is not in the project folder. Okay. However, when it's in the project folder, you can always put the text within the file inside your project folder and then do it the straight way without trying to introduce the path. Okay. All right, so I have a question for you. Okay. So based on the example of the file, reading from the file, let me just open the file. I hope you can all see the file.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What will happen, okay, given this code and the output, what will happen if the name is starting from the first line and not the second line? What will happen? The person whose name is Rage, what is your full name? Unmute and speak. What's your full name? Is it Rag or Rage?
Okay. Please, my name is Ernest Yeboah.
This one, marking attendance if it's not for your index number.
Yes, yes, sir. Sorry, I joined some Zoom meeting and then I forgot to rechange the name back.
Okay.
Yes. Please, my question, I don't know if you can allow me to ask the question
Yes,
that
yes,
I
go on,
want.
go on. You can ask your question.
Yes, please. The while line read test, how about if I want to start to read from Sebastian Essuman and then skip Henry Sampa and then go to James? How am I going to do that one, please? Hello, sir.
That will require the use of another condition. Okay.
Okay.
Preferably, when you do that, you do, if you are using the for loop, which we've used already, which was one of the type of loops we use more from in last semester. Okay. So you know that the for loop has a +1 or plus.
Yes, please.
So if you are using a for loop within the same context, you can do, instead of +1, you can do +2. Okay, and you can use the same thing in the while loop. Okay, so when you read, you move to the 2 lines or +1, as in +2, as in to move to the next
the next line.
The next two
lines.
Yes. Okay, so you can do that as well to read every other text.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. Yes, Philip.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Okay, assuming the list is, let's say, people of, let's say, 100 or 200, would there be necessary if indeed the thing can arrange itself like using the same names starting from A to, let's say, Z? Is that advisable?
I don't get your question.
Assuming the list or the text over here, this one is a three, right? So assuming there are 100 and you want the thing to arrange itself from A to Z, can that follow? Or that one too?
That's beyond what we are learning here. You can ask that question in data structures and algorithm class.
Okay.
Yeah, you are doing data structures and algorithm, right?
Yes, sir.
So that question will best use data structures and algorithm, where
Okay.
thoughts on some sorting. There are algorithms that helps you to sort. If you understand it from the concept of data structures and algorithm, then you can implement that algorithm of arranging or sorting out the names in order inside your code here. You get me? But it's beyond the context of what we are doing, or it's outside.
Oh,
Let me not say beyond. It's outside the context of what we are saying.
okay, sir.
We are learning how you can read from a file, whether it's arranged in alphabetical order or not. Yours is just to read what is in the file into your code.
Good. Okay.
Yours,
Okay.
what we are doing here is not to sort the names. When it comes to sorting and arrangement or storing of code, data structures and algorithms, you should be learning that in that course. Okay. So you can take that question to that class, find out how something like that can be done. Then when you get to understand the algorithm, then you implement it in this code, and then it will.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yes, this is Sani Mohammed.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, please, I want to ask it's about the car.
There's
What
some
if,
feedback from.
sir, please, can you hear me?
Okay, you go on.
Yeah, what if the file is on another PC, but you have the path? Will it still work out?
What do you think?
Yeah, I think it will work out.
I want to copy something. I want something. I have a software. Maybe I have WhatsApp on my PC, on my phone. Okay, and I want to send a message. I send a document. I have a document on my phone. I have WhatsApp. I want to send that document to someone else. Sorry, I have a document. I have two phones, okay, phone A and phone B. I have the document on phone A and WhatsApp on phone B. I want to send the document on phone A via WhatsApp to someone. How do you think that will work?
No, it's not going to work.
Pardon?
Unless you send the document to the other phone before you can send it.
Exactly. So does that relate to the question you are asking?
Yeah.
So it's up to you to devise the means from which you can get that document to the PC and then you send it. There are so many ways you can do that.
All right. Thank you, sir.
You can use the networking approach, peer-to-peer, connect cables to the two PCs, and then find a link from that PC to your PC, and then put that link or that path in here to do it. Or sometimes the document might be online. It can be online. So if it's online, you just know the online, there are URLs. Okay, so you specify the URL, the absolute URL of that particular file. You just put it here. And then it will pick that text from online. But you need internet access if you are working on this online related text, reading a file online. I hope your question is answered.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Any other? Okay, so in the absence of any question, let me go back to the question I asked. So I'm saying that we are reading from a file. Okay, this is our file here. This time around, the name is not starting from the first line. It's starting from the second line. Do you think this code, when we run it on this, it will give us an error, or it will show us an exception, or it will read the code and it will not give us anything, or it will not display any text, or it will still display the text that we have here? Okay, so that's my question to you. And a question like this, I can bring it in mid-semester or quiz or assignment. If you remember last time, we looked at things like that. Okay, so last semester, for instance, I gave you some codes for you to give the output of those codes and explain how you got the output. Okay, so this sem expects more of those things. Okay, so I can even bring the code with this and then just show you the file name, and then in the code, maybe just space out the file name and tell you to give the output of the code. Okay, so try them out. I know you have answers. I saw Angela raise her hand. I'm sure maybe she wanted to answer. But I'll say keep the answer to yourself and try it. When you try it and you are convinced of the answer, then in the quiz or mid-semester exams, when you see the question, you can respond to it. Okay. So try the various things. I even mentioned how you can write the file, how you can read from a file and write to another file. So in writing to another file, I'll just come here, move this here. Okay. Copy this. Put this here. And then instead of the name here, I'll just put line. Okay. I'll make sure my file writer here, there's no comment. In fact, I need to put this print writer and this over here. So what will happen now, instead of printing to the desktop, to print and add it to the Java 2 evening class. Okay, so try all these things out. And also, when you come to your, hopefully next week, your handout should be available. Okay, so there are a couple of examples on the other streams which you look at, okay, which you see. I'm not going to talk about them, but at least you have an idea of how they all work. Okay, so how the read, print writer work and all that. Then try them out. Okay, so I have a question for you, but this will be on a group, will be a group related question. I'll come up with the groups and share it with your class rep by Wednesday. Now with this group, I'll share a question as well. And this question has to do with last semester's exams. Okay, so if you notice last semester exams, all the codes we wrote, where you had to print a receipt. Okay, we printed the receipt on the console. So from what you've learned today, in today's class, as a group, pick that same question instead of writing on the console with the system.out, introduce the file writer to print into a file or onto a file. Okay, to print to a file instead of printing on the console. Okay, so using the file writer, print writer. Okay, so you can print it as PDF, print it as text, whichever format you want to use it for as a group. So that will be the group assignment. I'll send the grouping for the class to the platform. If there's anyone who, so far I know one person who has switched from morning to evening. Okay, so if there's any other person who is not in the evening class and has switched to evening now, the person should contact Francis, the class rep, to send the name and index number to me so that I can add you to a group. Okay. So by Wednesday, close of day Wednesday, you should get your grouping and then the assignment. If you are capable of even working on it even before you identify your group members, that should also help. So next week, our meeting, which I think will be online until until we have a positive news coming from the school. If it is online, we are going to present it group by group. And then I'll ask questions. If it is in person too, we do same. Okay, so that will be your first assignment, which will be graded for the semester. All right. Any question? Any other question? You need clarity on anything? Can ask.